Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Birthright Citizenship, teachers unions. We've got a lot on our plate, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have you along. My name is Sam Bushman. This is Liberty RoundTable Live. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, and it all starts now. Greg Lyakhov with us, ladies and gentlemen. This guy is something. 17 years old, lives in New York. His family came for freedom and ended up in the middle of the communism mecca. It's just insane. He's 17 years old, but man, he's a syndicated columnist. He writes for everybody and their dog. And now he's on Liberty RoundTable Live. You got to love that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you right now. It's Gregory Lyakhov. And all you got to do is put an @ sign in front of that dude, and he's about everywhere, on X and everywhere else. Greg, tell us where else you can be found, by the way.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. I have my own show on YouTube, The Patriot Perspective. I'm also on the Gateway Pundit, where I have my column along with Townhall Media, which is Salem. And yeah, X, as you mentioned.
You got to dig it. So I wanted to get this really quick. We talked about this birth citizenship stuff. It's important. It's being kind of obliterated by the war discussions and Donald's, I don't know what Donald's doing, but it's whiplash for sure for the president. At the end of the day, though, hey, domestic issues matter too, just so y'all know that. Congress is still on recess, so they're derelict in their duty, sad but true. And at the end of the day, I kind of go, wait a minute, this birthright citizenship, we're probably going to be forced by the courts to wait till June to get answers. But Greg, do you have some kind of intel? What do you think is going to happen? What are they going to do?
Yeah, definitely. I think that they will not side with Trump on this one. They're going to side with the idea of the ACLU, which is pushing that birthright citizenship is protected on the 14th Amendment. And the reasoning for that is that, the liberal justices are always going to side with the progressive point of view based off their interpretation of the Constitution. And also the conservative justices that are more concerned about precedent and more concerned of, restirring an argument or creating some sort of national issue that may sacrifice some legitimacy of the court. They are going to focus on making sure that doesn't happen. So they will also side with the president, what history has really not been controversial with, which is the idea that birthright citizenship is protected under the Constitution.
So they can never really adjudicate, according to the supreme law of the land. They got to walk this tightrope and try to make everybody happy. And at the end of the day, what it's going to be is anchor babies central. That's what you're going to see, folks. You're going to just see anchor babies everywhere. The communist Chinese are going to have babies here, left and right, Lance.
It's a slippery slope, and that's the real question. How do you decide when the parents are here illegally? And of course, a lot of them came into the country to use our social services to get free health care, free medical, have a baby here. Now that baby is a citizen, and of course, could down the road apply for their parents to come to the United States. I don't know. When does it become so complicated?
Well, I'll tell you when. You ready?
A loophole, because it is kind of a loophole, is it not? You have to agree.
It's a massive loophole you can drive a truck through, and that really is the problem. And that really goes back to the living and breathing, stretchable Constitution where anything goes. You've heard the song "Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys." Have you guys heard that before?
I have heard that.
All right. Well, the new phrase is "Don't let your illegals grow up to be in the teachers' unions," because boy, they've ran off the rails, Gregory.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a lot here that needs to be understood with the birthright citizenship ruling too. It's going to be interesting to watch to see what actually occurs with the birthright citizenship ruling. And this is actually interesting because there have been all of these people, all of these anchor babies that are getting birthright citizenship are now in our public school system. They're now gaining the same exact rights as the individuals that actually come to our country legally and have children are getting. So it's a huge concern because they're basically taking away resources from much of our school systems, from the kids that are actually going to public schools and paying taxes. And it's going to only become worse and worse if the Supreme Court decides that birthright citizenship is obviously open to everyone, even children of illegals.
I don't know how to respond to this except for it almost seems like the illegals have special privilege at the trough, even, Gregory.
Yeah, they do. If you look at it, I mean, the illegal immigrants in general have very special privilege in our country. We are willing to sacrifice our entire law, entire law and the lawfulness of our land to allow these illegal immigrants to stay in the United States. And if a country is willing to sacrifice not only its sovereignty but its laws, then it's obviously goes to show that this group has some sort of special status in our country.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about education, because really we've got so many problems with education. I don't even know where to start. Mom tried to go down to the PTA to see if she couldn't stop some of the strange stuff happening. I won't go into details. We don't have time. But then the FBI got involved and shut down Mom, called her a terrorist. The illegals aren't terrorists, but Mom is, Gregory.
Yeah, it's crazy. Going into education in general, though, as you mentioned, the issues that we have in our country today are significant. Our entire education system is being controlled by the teachers' unions. That is Randy Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers. And these teachers' unions are advocating for policies in education that are better for teachers and not better for our students. And when we have a entire education system being catered towards teachers rather than students, then that education system is not going to be very educational. And this has been shown in COVID, for example, when the entire school system closed down in several states, including mine in New York, because the teachers unions advocated for it to be closed down and for it to be prolonged shutdown. It was shut down for almost a year. So when we have, again, these teachers unions that are trying to influence the policy outcomes of our education, trying to influence the education significantly that our students get, then these teachers unions are going to be the kings of education, and no one's going to be able to check them, because these are the unions that have money. These are the unions that have power. You brought up a good point, though, about this, how birthright citizenship has to do with all of this. And the teachers unions have been the most pro-illegal immigrants we have ever seen. The teachers unions on their websites have literally know your rights articles where they talk about how teachers can protect their students that are of illegal immigrants from being swept up by ICE. So we have teachers unions that are actively trying to go around the federal law, trying to go around the federal enforcement.
Well, and it seems like every law they seem to reject. So you want to have morality in schools? No. They want to teach that Johnny's a girl. You want to go ahead and, we can go on about race. We can go on about this. It seems like the teachers' unions have almost become terrorist organizations. I know that sounds extreme, but when you say Mom's a terrorist and the illegals not,
I don't.
And by the way, Johnny's a girl. Lance,
listen, you have to look at the unions and what they're doing behind the scenes. First of all, you look at the endorsement of socialist candidate Zoran Mondani for NYC mayor. They pushed that as hard as they possibly could, put lots of money behind it. You've got the unions aggressively going anti-ICE activism inside the schools. They've got NEA and AFT-led ICE out days, protests, classroom propaganda. And what about the millions in union dues funded to left-wing and social justice causes? All the federal filings between 24 and 25, they show NEA money flowing to 1630 Fund, the Tides Foundation, anti-Israel efforts, anti-standardized testing campaigns. Of course they don't want standardized testings. They're doing a lousy job. Our testing is coming back lower than ever. They're supposed to be focused on educating their youth, but the social dust.
Well, they are educating our youth.
Yeah.
Educating our youth in everything that we stand against, right?
Grooming our youth, maybe.
Propaganda to our youth.
This is not what I grew up with, Sam. I don't know about the school system you grew up with, but I thought it was reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Hey, I told you guys on the break, my teacher had on the board cussing as a crutch for conversational cripples. Would that fly now, Gregory?
Yeah, absolutely not. And the reasoning for that is, again, that teachers' unions are influencing policy in education to the extent that we have not seen before. Look, I'll give you an example. In American politics here, in educational funding on the federal level, the amount of money we have spent on education in general, on K-12 education, has more than doubled since 1990, and that is with adjustment for inflation. While our literacy rates, our proficiency rates in math, all of that is around the same, maybe a slight increase. We haven't seen the result of just throwing money at the issue. It's time to to do something different. And that is to actually allow the private sector to go into education, allow charter schools. Because on every single level where charter schools have been implemented, charter schools have performed significantly better than their counterparts using significantly less money, including in New York, in Washington, D.C., and almost every single liberal city where charter schools have been implemented. I'll give you, an example of this. In New York, we have Success Academy. Success Academy is the largest charter school system in our state. And in the city where Success Academy is, it has a pass rate on the same standardized tests that the public schools take of 98%. That pass rate for the public school counterparts of Success Academy is less than 49%. So it's almost a double a double in performance. And it just goes to show we need private sector education to come into our
yeah, but Donald already got rid of the education department, didn't he, Gregory? I was thinking he got rid of that.
He did not get rid of it yet, and he needs to. It's one of the
And look, we've gone from educational advocates to ideological enforcers. They're driving gender ideology, this anti-Israel activism, open border messaging, enforcement against ICE and DHS. And this is all going not only in, that they're doing in the classrooms. You're talking about teachers training, the student materials. If that's not, brainwashing at the highest level, of course, they're molding these minds. Gregory, I got to ask you, you're in the school system. Socialism and communism, as much as people want to act like it's not happening, they seem to be telling the kids, don't get a job. We're gonna pay your bills. We're gonna give you free cell phones and free healthcare and free this and free that. Do you feel like the students around you are thinking, geez, maybe I won't have to work. Maybe they'll just give me what I need to live on and I can just live my life like that? Because I don't think
No, Lance, they're reading the 10 Commandments, buddy.
Yeah. Here they are.
I think, in general, what our teachers unions have taught us, what our education system is teaching our students is that you can do anything you want in life, including studying, women's studies in college, gender studies, all of that. So you are exposed to this in high school. You choose your major, what you want to major in college. You don't actually look at the real world implications of it, whether you can get a job with that major. You are in college for 4 years learning about gender studies, whatever that is. And then you are out of college. What are you going to get? Where are you going to use that degree? You can't use that degree. We have been conditioned that college is the only way for these students to actually get a job, to get hired after they graduate, and that's not true. College for many kids is pointless, and it's time that our teachers unions and our higher education start acknowledging that for many students, education in general and college is not the best way to go.
Wow.
Frightening, but true. There's no doubt. And of course, it was always created like that. Yeah. And that is a wow moment for the audience. What I'm loving, and the reason I'm saying wow is us older generations, many of us have known that for a long time. I don't have a college degree except for in Hard Knocks and reality. But to see the young say this, Gregory, it's a new world, baby, in a good way. Because if your generation catches on to that, these clowns are done.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the young saying it; it's me saying it. But
no surprise.
Yeah, I hope that my generation acknowledges it, but it's not going to, because college again has been so conditioned. It is so a part of life right now in America, which is good and bad. It's good; at least people have a pathway after they graduate high school. But for many that are going to go into debt, that are just trying to go into the best top institutions that they can and, contribute the most money to their tuition. For those people, not always is college going to pay off. I mean, there's literally a few pathways that I could count on one hand that, actually get benefited by going to college. There's other options.
And we'll let you continue in a second, Gregory. One of the ways is to become an incredible syndicated journalist at 17 years old, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you get her done without college. Just saying. Gregory Lyakhov is his name. At Gregory Lyakhov is where you can check him out everywhere. We're going to let Lance fly. Lance, final comment, sir?
Listen, at the end of the day, we need more of this, not less. Hopefully there's a solution here. There's something interesting. Gregory, thanks for joining. Listen, I've got to head over to my other show. I appreciate it. Liberty Roundtable listeners, as always, thanks for giving me the time to let me pontificate to you. Sam, thanks.
Stay there, Gregory. Lance and George, they're over at Lance.
The Big Mig Show at Rumble, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, Monday through Friday. And of course, the Crypto Power Hour, the #1 crypto show on Rumble, 7 a.m. on Wednesdays, 7 a.m. on Fridays.
And then on the weekends, Liberty News Radio, the Big Mig. Thanks, Lance.
Thanks, man.
Greg Lyakhov, you were mentioning there's a lot of ways rather than going to college. Go ahead and continue, sir.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll give you an example of this now. You know, if you want to be an HVAC or whatever, or if you want to be a plumber, an electrician, there's trade schools that you go to, and those those sectors in general in those jobs tend to pay significantly more than any other jobs that you would get out of college.
And if anything happens to societal norms like the power or anything else, those jobs are in demand like you wouldn't believe, baby.
Exactly. They're always going to be in demand. They're always going to pay well. And it has been again conditioned that these jobs are not considered high quality jobs, or that these jobs aren't considered high paying. And in general, my generation has ignored it. So it's time that we start focusing on trades. We start focusing on other options. And even trades or not trades, even if you just have a normal job, I don't know, in computer programming, most of the time you, again, don't need a college degree to do that. There's online courses that you can take. It's extremely silly to spend $100,000 a year on a university that is going to provide you absolutely nothing other than becoming in debt for ages to come.
Well, and in debt and indoctrinated, though. A lot of people that come out of college, they don't understand the Constitution. They don't understand the Ten Commandments or our way of life or our founding fathers or this movie I've been promoting or anything else to understand real history. They've been really immersed in propagandization is all. And so they've been, one, in debt, and two, indoctrinated. When they come out, man, they don't have a prayer to preserve the republic, Gregory.
Yeah, and this is a very good point, that education in general has been too separated from our morality and too separated from religion. Our framers intended that our country have some sort of separation between church and state, but not total separation. Our country was never founded upon the idea that that the United States is going to be a secular state. It was founded upon the idea that the government had its job and God had its job. God had its job to influence morality and virtue, and government had its job to govern. That's what George Washington said in his final address. That was what was meant for the secularness of our country to actually be. And in education terms, our founders intended for morality to be taught. Our founders intended for morality and virtue to be promoted, and for our founding ideals, which are based in Judeo-Christian values, to be promoted in our education systems. However, that has not happened. We have not been promoting that. We have only been promoting our secularness, our just, straight curriculum. And it's one of the biggest flaws of our education system, because we are teaching a whole entire generation that morality and virtue can be done by the government. It cannot. It can only be done by religion and God.
And they're teaching that, hey, it doesn't belong in the public square. The absence of religion, ladies and gentlemen, is really a religion in and of itself. It's called secularism or humanism religion. It's a godless revolution. That is the communist way. So it's really communism, godless viewpoint that fills that void when we pretend that religion doesn't belong everywhere. All it meant is they can't pick the Mormons as the religion, or the Catholics, or the Protestants, but we the people need to have our religious views and our moral compass intact at all times, everywhere, most importantly in the public square. Hey, Gregory, this is kind of interesting. A lot of times the hosts pick the topics. I want you just to pick a topic. And in the remaining minutes, what do you think we ought to talk about? What do you think is so important that America needs to discuss?
Yeah, I would stay on education, because I think it really is the most important topic that our country is not discussing. Education has been, since it's not very interesting and people tend to think it's not a very pressing, imminent threat to our country, it has been ignored in our society in general, because kids can't vote, the youth can't vote, so why do we care about them? And in general, this mainstream idea of the lack of importance of education has led to significant issues with our youth, has led to the issues of our youth being communist, as you mentioned, has led to our youth electing communist mayors in New York City, for example.
Yeah, go watch the movie Lean on Me to see the point, right?
Yeah, and in general, this has all led to a downfall of our country. And if we don't turn back now, if we don't change this, if we don't include our the values our founding fathers intended, then we are going to continue on this downfall. It's going to lead to a total collapse in our country. And you may ask why. Why are people promoting this? Why do teachers unions, for example, want the downfall of our students? There's a lot of reasons for this, but in general, the most understandable reason in my perspective is that Democrats enjoy when teachers do well because teachers unions vote for Democrats, but they also benefit off the lack of success for students. When students are not successful, they're reliant on the big government. They go into these programs like SNAP. They go into
they'll get universal basic incomes, won't they, Gregory?
Exactly, and that is reliant on the big government. Big government is the Democrats' platform. It's the platform that the Democrats have been pushing. If we can get more people relying on the big government, then Democrats win, because people are relying on the Democrats. Not only that, but there's more to this, because in general, Democrats understand that when kids are less financially stable, when they are accustomed to this value of getting married much later than usual, when they're accustomed to this value of not having families, not having kids, they are less conservative. When you actually have kids, when you get married, there have been several studies that have proven that you tend to be significantly more conservative. And what we have seen is that the marriage rates have gone down in general. And right now, the average time to get married is like 29, when just 10 years ago it was around 25. So
all right, everybody, Greg's looking for a wife, ladies and gentlemen. So, be ready, because Greg's on the scene, ladies and gentlemen. 17-year-old journalist, syndicated all over the place. Gregory Lyakhov. Just put an at in front of it. Look for him everywhere. It's incredible. What do we do with the teachers' unions? We got to get rid of those things, Gregory.
We have to get rid of them, and we have to make the Democrats understand that it is time for reform. It is time that the teachers' unions don't actually have the power. They don't have the money that they do right now. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening because of the amount of power for the teachers' unions. But the only way to truly get rid of the teachers' unions is by, again, adopting a charter school-based system all around the country where teachers' unions no longer have power, because the public education system now has to compete with the charter schools and with the private education system. And in that situation, there will always be competition, and the private is always going to go over the public. And it's going to force teachers' unions to actually clean up their act to make the education system as it is now significantly better and more rewarding for our students.
I want to shut down the teachers' unions, and I want to promote a more perfect union. That is called the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, based on God, family, and country, Gregory.
Yeah, I agree, and it's the complete opposite agenda of the teachers' unions, because, again, the teachers' unions love the lack of success for our students, and it's unfortunate, but it is the reality. And when we have an education system being catered towards our teachers rather than our students, it's going to just do wonders for our future, really, in our country.
Greg Lyakhov, what are you working on now? What columns are we supposed to watch for coming out? Give me an idea.
Yeah, definitely. So I am currently working on a column regarding Europe and regarding the divide of Europe and America. We always think of our countries as being, or not countries, but the continent of Europe and the United States as being Western and holding Western values. And while that's true, there is an inherent divide between Europe and the United States that is not.
And they're trying to make that divide worse, right?
It's trying to be worse, number one, but there's also a general cultural divide because Europe in general is much more left-leaning. And the reason for that is because Europe benefits, and Europe is much more accustomed to big government than the United States is. In Europe, the parties in Europe and countries in Europe tend to limit democracy, while in the United States we tend to expand it. We saw it in World War II with the Marshall Plan, when after that, the United States expanded democracy throughout the world. Europe attempted to limit it with its creations of programs like the United Nations, the ICC, all of that.
And we shouldn't really try to expand democracy because we think democracy is a danger. That's what the Founding Fathers said. We ought to spread constitutional republics.
Exactly. Well, in this case, constitutional republics and democracy are synonymous, but yes.
Yeah, I wish it were true, but it's not. We got to have a constitutional republic, ladies and gentlemen. There is a democratic part of a constitutional republic. That's for sure. We, the people, need to be involved. Gregory's right about that without a doubt. Gregory Lyakhov. Put an @ sign in front of it. Check him out everywhere. Townhall. He used to even be a speaker for Turning Point. So we hope he stays involved in all kinds of great things everywhere, and we'll keep an eye on his career because it's incredible. Thank you, Gregory. I'm Sam Bushman. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Liberty Roundtable Live. LibertyRoundtable.com, LibertyNewsRadio.com. God save the Republic of the United States of America.